You see, that's just the way I am. That's a lie. Here's the truth. I can change anything about myself I ought to change. I can. I can change anything about myself that I ought to change. You can change anything about yourself that ought to change. That's the truth that Jesus taught. And the reason I know that is true is because what God has done is provided you and me with everything we need to change anything in our lives that ought to change. There's so many passages in the Bible we could go to that reveal this reality. I want to go here to Philippians 2 in verse 13. Here Scripture says, "For God is working in you." Not might be working, not could be working, not theoretically working. God is. It's a fact, whether it feels like it or not. God is working in you, giving you the desire and the power to do what pleases Him. Two things God provides for us that makes it possible to change anything about ourselves that ought to change. The first, He provides the want to. See, God is giving us the desire to do what pleases Him. He gives us the want to. God gives us a stronger, better, newer desire that just wants to do the things that please Him. Isn't it amazing that in life, a substantial relationship changes what we desire? I remember when I was 18. When I was 18, all I wanted to do was hang with my friends, go out and have fun, play sports, you spin up all night, stay up, most of the night just going out, having a blast, getting back the next day, doing some work, going to school, making some money, learning a few things, repeat it all over again. It was a great life. And then I met Sandy. And when I met Sandy, my desires began to change. Now I just didn't want to hang out with my friends. I just didn't want to go play sports. I just want to go out crowds and have a good time. It's like I wanted to spend time with her. I wanted to settle down. I lost my desire to date around and date other women. It's like, no, I just want to be with you. I entered into a significant relationship. My desires changed. Sandy and I got married. And early in our married life, you know what? We pretty much did whatever we wanted to do. I'd go to school during the day, then I'd work at night, then I'd go home, Sandy and I would get up, and we'd drive to the mountains of North Carolina, and we'd go skiing at either Beach Mountain or Sugar Mountain in North Carolina. Or we'd call up our friends, and we'd go midnight bowling, all the bowling you can get in between midnight and 2 in the morning. We had a great life. It's what we loved to do. It's what we wanted to do. Then we had a child. And suddenly our desires changed. Oh, you know what? We still like to do those things, but we didn't have that strong urge to do it. We wanted to be home. We wanted to be with our kid. We wanted to watch him grow. We wanted to spend time with him. See, in life, when you enter into a significant relationship, it's incredible. It affects what you desire. It affects what you want. And that is no truer in any area of life than when we enter into a relationship with God. We get into an honest relationship with God, and suddenly our desires begin to change. Suddenly I want to do the right thing. I want to do the moral thing. I want to give my life away to serve others. I want to help other people know what this God is like. God provides inside of us a want to, a desire to do the things that please Him. And notice He also provides the can do. Because He gives us the power to do what pleases Him. This is the moral energy to do the things that we know are right. I've been thinking, how does this actually work? I believe it's the spiritual equivalent of adrenaline. Anybody here ever had an adrenaline rush? Got yourself in a situation where suddenly your adrenaline glands kicked in, you got a rush, and you could do things that physically you could not have done on your own? I remember when I was a junior in high school, we were at a large track meet in a suburb of Chicago, racing against some of the big Chicago schools. I was in the 100-yard dash, and back then they were yards and not meters. So I'm in a 100-yard dash on a cinder track, which in ancient days is what tracks were made of. And I remember I got in the starting blocks, and the start was always the strong point for me. And I got down there on your mark, get set, bam, the gun goes off. I blasted from those blocks, and the first step I took, my spikes ripped through the cinders, and I fell flat on my face. Just one step, boom, right down on my face. You know, and I kind of look up, and there's everybody pulling away. And I remember this rush coming over me. And I just hopped up, and I took off. I took off running faster, I know, than I'd ever run in my entire life. I didn't just catch up with the field. I passed the field, and I won the race against inner city Chicago schools and athletes, having fallen down because of adrenaline. Something just kicked it in, and I did what was not naturally possible for me. It was only possible because of an adrenaline rush. Well, God does something like that to us spiritually, something like that emotionally. What he does is, when we get to that time, when we have a moral choice to make, God somehow kicks in our spiritual adrenaline glands, and he gives us the power to pull it off, even if naturally we never could have done it on our own. So here's God saying, I'll give you the want to, and I'll give you the can do. By the way, this is a great gauge for whether or not we actually have a relationship with God. Because some people think they do, but God's a theory. God's an abstract concept. God is somebody out there somewhere that maybe you need to appease in the hope that he will like you enough that he won't annihilate you, or he'll like you enough that maybe he'll let you into heaven when you die. So he's out there somewhere, but there's distance. When there's no real relationship with God, then the want to and the can do are really lacking. But when we enter into a relationship with him, suddenly a want to begins to grow inside of us, and a can do adrenaline spiritual rush begins to be released, and our lives just change. That's the fast. And so some of us may be thinking, now wait a minute. God's given me the want to, and God's given me the can do, but I've got my spiritual arm trapped behind an 800-pound dysfunction. How can I get free? What's my job? What's my role? What's the strategy? What's the plan? Well, there is one. And we could probably state it in a number of different ways, but here's how I kind of like to articulate this morning what we can do, tapping into the want to and the can do, to get free, become who we were meant to be. Finally banish that one thing we hate about ourselves we've never been able to get free from. I say the first step, I put it like this: plug in. We've got to plug in. See, when we say to ourselves things like, you know what, I just don't have the strength to change, we're almost right. Remember last week? Yeah, you're right, we don't have the strength to change, but we're not limited to our own strength. There's other strength out there that is unlimited that we could tap into to get the power to actually change. And without plugging into those power sources, changing is really an impossible possibility, and we never really get free. See, first we have to plug into God. I mean, plug into God. This means we need to interact with God regularly. We need to talk to him and express our thoughts and our feelings and our desires. We need to listen to him. By maybe reading the Bible, maybe as we're listening to Christian music, maybe in the quietness when we're just thinking and we just get these ideas that sure feel like they're coming from God. We need to listen to him, and we need to talk to him, and we need to maintain an openness and a responsiveness and a sensitivity to God. We need to remind ourselves of God and God's presence throughout the course of our regular days. That's what I mean by staying plugged in. It's keeping consciousness of God and openness to God and communicating with God throughout the course of the day.